It's because this is the Speak Easy podcast where we talk about the behind the scenes of what it is to be a speaker or an author. And I'm excited about today's topic because, listen, sometimes you have to be willing to go all in. Listen, I get it. I know we have lives and kids and bills. Hold us back from really going all into our business or going all in on life. But the reality is that sometimes you just need, you need to just put your foot in and try to go in slow. Sometimes you can make things happen. That's exactly what I feel as though they did. Now, you may not feel as though they did. I feel as though that's what they did. Simply because they sold everything. That's a lot. That's major. This is very major, especially when you're thinking about all of the different cultures and the different things that you're going to come in contact with. So first and foremost, I want to say hey to Peter. Hey, Peter.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good. And I want you to let everybody know in the Speak Easy world a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into today's topic.
So a little bit about myself. I am first a husband, a father of 2 girls, and soon to be another girl, which is crazy. So 3 girls. I grew up in business, in a family business, doing landscaping and maintenance, and that company grew to, huge, in terms of, it was a massive company. And so I was always around kind of business in a sense. It was my parents. And then I went into public accounting and tax work. And so I did that for, it's been about 10 years. So, and at a certain point, which was probably about 7 years ago, I left working in an office for another accountant, ended up opening my own office, right? And I opened up another business. And then my wife had her business, and we got, and we're married about 10 years now. So it's been about 10 years since I've been doing accounting, that I jumped into it. And now, I help businesses with cash flow and other things. And on the opposite side, I'm helping people with making an impact in their business and life, right? So both kind of it combines together, making an impact. And how do you do that? How do you make an impact and make your profits and so a lot of times, you get caught up with just paying the bills, and you don't realize that what you're doing makes an impact, right? And so so that's before I dive into what happened 4 years ago. I'll let you. I'll put it to you.
So you went right into what it is that we're going to be talking about today, because you talked about, some things that are holding us back. A lot of times we get the, one day, someday, any day, and we have to ask ourselves the question, why not today? Oftentimes we think about, again, we do have the bills and we have the kids and we have all of these different things that are kind of competing against our purpose and passion, right? It's the things that really, that's not really the best idea. What if everything falls to hell in the handbasket and we got to look and say, do I do it anyway? So before we talk about making the jump, decision, all in, I'm just going to sell it all and move. Let's go.
So I would say it's almost 6 years now. There was just something that, let me back up even before then. So probably about 7 years, me and my wife got to travel with some friends of ours and we're sitting on the beach in Hawaii, right? Because because we split the bill, we found tickets round trip for like $400, and it was like awesome. So and we split a condo together, so that was cheap. We didn't have to spend $200 a night at a hotel or something. So me and my wife are sitting on the beach, and she says, at this time we're working extremely hard. I have two businesses at the time. She works doing hair, and and she's the stylist and all that. So she says, "What are we doing? This is like the best days of our lives. We're working really, really hard at all for just for 1 week or something to go on a vacation." And we did other things in between there. Like we would take a drive, but it was just a short, a day or two weekend. And so that kind of like stuck with me. But then life just got busy. Again, I kind of forgot about that, but just kept remembering, like, these are the best days of our lives. And we're so consumed in our own work. And so what ended up happening was there was just something that came over me. I don't know how to explain it. I just knew that a change needed to happen and a move. And whether you want to say it's originally, maybe I thought it was a prepper thing, right? Because it was like the economy was just in a crazy thing. And I was like, well, we got to go, right? That was my original kind of maybe why I was being prone. I wasn't looking into all that stuff. I just knew economics through, finance and accounting, and I followed the stock market. And I just thought, well, we just got to get out of here, right? But, for years, as years gone by, nothing's happening. The role's still surviving, right? And so you're like, well, why was there a prompting? And so you start observing the things in your life that was taking place, in my relationship with my wife. At the time, we didn't have any kids, right? So the relationship with me and my work, relationship with me and, if you want to call it, the spiritual world or something, just kind of getting in tune with my faith. I would say faith, right? And so I just went down the list, and it was so imbalanced everywhere. One day it would be up in one area and it would be so down the next. And so that's kind of the prompting started at the time of just when things were just so volatile, I would say, right? I can't hear you very well. I hope.
I was still, I was saying, yeah, pretty much.
I thought you were talking, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't hear you.
No, you're
so okay. So yeah, bottom line is there was something internally that was just like, maybe it was a form of internal, like, slow death, right? Like we just have this like this kind of this emotional drain that happens in this in different parts of our lives that we just kind of accept it. And I've always been the type that if it isn't available or it's not there, make it happen, right? Like, so I'll give an example. When we were living in South America, I'll jump right into it. When we were living in South America, the country we went to, now coffee, I love coffee, right? Me and my wife love coffee. And this is a ridiculous example, but so where we went to South America, it's a country called Uruguay, right? And they have terrible coffee, right? And they started in the last year or so actually getting some decent coffee, but they drank a tea called mate. And so it was put in a gourd cup. They called it a gourd. And it was just a round, and it was made in all kinds of weird things. Like, they made it out of a cow's hoof. They made a gourd. They like like, like, how you do, like, do have animals on your wall. They had a gourd out of that, and they would have like this silver, like this straw spoon that went into that, and they would pack their tea inside there, and they drink that throughout the day, right? And that was there, and it has a caffeine level inside there. And there would be people on motorcycles, and they would have a thermos in their arms, and then they would have a gourd, and they would be walking around the city with this thermos and gourd in their hands, not the hoof, right? It was, but they would have this gourd, and so
I mind the cartoon came into play where they take the horn off and it kind of blow into it. Now that's like literally what I saw.
Well, that was literally, I mean, they just, you have animals hang, people's in some houses, they not in my house, but some people hang an animal head in their house or something because they, when they do all that, special thing to it so that it doesn't.
Right. All that, what is it? Taxidermy. All the taxidermy stuff where they stuff it
exactly. Taxidermy. Yeah. So that's they basically did that. And it was just the weirdest thing to see that. But they didn't have great coffee there. And me and my wife, I was like, I'm not willing to drink a terrible cup of coffee. I mean, they had like that crystal stuff that you put into your cup, and it, I like drip coffee or something, right? I like a good cup. And so I found at a health food store that they had the beans, right? The green beans, the actual green beans of a coffee. And so I told my wife, I'm going to learn how to roast coffee because I'm not willing to wake up in the morning and not drink a good cup of coffee. And so just not willing to accept that what the situation you're in is what you have to be in at that moment. Right. So if you feel like you're dying, find what that root is and figure it out. And try to fix it. It's not, and sometimes we let it get so bad to the point where we do extreme things like move to South America.
Now that speaks volumes, because I feel like us as entrepreneurs, and I tell people all the time, if you're a speaker, you're an author, you're also an entrepreneur, that's what we do. We wait till things get to dire straits, and then now we want to push the business. Now we want to push, the products and services that we have. But you already had them and could have been pushing them. But you waited until now you don't have any food in the house, or the electric is out, or you're about to be evicted. And now you're trying to scramble around and figure out, okay, what can I do to make money?
That is so true. That is exactly what happens. We just go from one extreme to the other. And we don't realize that if we're in tune with ourselves, there is, and I don't know where exactly this comes from, but I heard there was a group in Australia that, I'm going to mess up their name, but they believe that that we actually have three brains, right? We have our mind brain, which is, our logic and our reasoning, right? Then we have our heart brain, which is like our emotion, right? And then we have our gut brain, which is like just our instinct, right? And so if we don't realize that we have all those signals, and those signals are constantly happening, and some people just say, "Oh, this doesn't just seem right," right? Our instinct is popping, coming out, and we have those instincts, but we kind of ignore them because we have a lot of debt. We have issues in our families, in our household with our spouses or our kids, or we have issues with traumatic events that have happened. It could be, whatever it is, and it kind of numbs those signals, I think. and we just kind of forget, and then we just end up living with that numbness, if that's even a word. And
I definitely have to agree with you there. That is, yeah, we get to that point where we're just existing. We're existing. There's so many opportunities and options. We're in a day and age where people are making money selling air. People are making money selling jeans with fake dirt on it. The opportunities are endless. I mean, really.
we got companies making the jeans and then ripping them and then selling them.
Exactly. So you have so many opportunities where we hold back thinking, and I want to ask you this question as well, is that a lot of times we hold back from taking that leap, taking that jump, because we're questioning, what is this person going to say? What are they going to say? How is this person going to take it? Oh my goodness, my mother's going to disown me because I decided to quit my job and work as an entrepreneur. Oh my goodness, I'm writing a book and traveling, and so my siblings are going to think that there's something wrong with me, or that they think that I'm trying to be a hobo or something along that lines. And literally, these are the things that go like spinning out of control through our minds. What was that process like for you when you decided, you know what, I'm going all in, I'm selling everything, we're moving to South America, and you went and sat down and talked? Did you even talk to the family? Did you talk to the family?
I did talk to family and friends, and I would say that I was kind of all my life kind of a hustler, in the sense that I always just did things and had to figure it out. My parents were, they owned a business. So they were, busy growing that business. We had our church stuff. We had all kinds of stuff going on where, I just kind of jumped in and did things. Right. And so I was nervous telling them, but I wasn't scared of their reaction, right? If that makes sense. So not as much people, and I know people have that. They have fears like, what are they going to think that I'm going to do? I know that people have those fears. Mine was more in the sense that, I guess ours, my I didn't really have too much because I was just all in. I didn't really, we sold everything. So it was just like, we went all in. The hardest part was really not knowing the full picture of why, right? Like, we knew something had to happen and something had to change, but the full extent of the picture, we don't always see it, right? We don't know what the outcome is. And if you're a type of person where you need control, or you have, perfectionism inside of you, that's difficult, right? Because you want to make sure that the checklist is perfect, that you have all the details, and we didn't have all the details, right? We made a lot of mistakes through the process, and we could have maybe even made more money during the process of selling everything just by being more of a checklist person, right? When we were selling our stuff, we could have sold it online and, been able to make a little bit more, but we chose to do a yard sale, which is, as you know, I don't know if you've ever done a yard sale, but yard sales, people are always haggling you.
Yes,
they're haggling you
yes.
on a buck, or, they want it for 50 cents instead of a buck. Right. And, so we could have clearly made some better decisions. And if there was that much perfectionism inside of us, that would have been a lot difficult, but we made mistakes. And we had some hard choices that we came to when we did move there. Plane tickets are not cheap. We sold everything, right? And at the time we didn't have kids, so that was a little bit easier. But when we sold everything, we sold our house, we sold everything. We found out my wife was pregnant, right? So we sold everything, bought our tickets already. So the question was, do we go find a place to rent and until we have this baby and then go? Or do we, and for my wife, that was a big thing, right? Because you're having a baby in a foreign country. And she was jumping into that. So there was a lot happening. I just took it as it was coming, right? Just like you just focus on what's right in front of you. You know, your goal is to, okay, well, we just got to get there. And part of it that made it easier is we had some connections and contacts in the country we went to, right? So we weren't totally like people that go, like, I think it's a lot braver, people that go and don't have any connections and they jump and they have kids and all that stuff. That's a lot more difficult. For us, it was just, all right, we know people there. Excuse me. And so we just made that leap and we had some connections there to help us get started.
A couple different points. And I the first one was like a real aha moment, because so many times we hear the gurus tell us, start with your why. Start with your why, start with your why, start with your why. But the reality is that depending on the individual, it's not always best to start with a why, because you spend more time trying to figure out the why than actually taking action. And so I think that was a huge point that you made, because guess what? It's not going to be the same with every person. Somebody may start with their why and make $1 million. Somebody else may start with their why and never start at all because they're still trying to figure out their why. That part is really important. And then another piece that you said, which is my ultimate, because you guys know I'm always pushing you guys to network and connect with other people. But literally networking and knowing people where you're going can mean all the difference.
Now the networking, the people that we were there didn't necessarily help me completely survive there, right? Like when we got there, I went into the city, because we rented a place in the city. We went and I talked to people, I tried to network. I tried to get connections. And, when we sold everything, I didn't have, I didn't bring this business with me. I figured out the online world after the fact, right? I figured out online marketing. I figured out online business, how to build the trust factor into your business. All that stuff was later, maybe in year 2 or so. But before then, I was trying to figure things out. I was teaching English there, right? Because they didn't have a whole lot of English teachers there. And I was a, quote, native speaker. So they were willing to have me, be a teacher there. But I wouldn't have gotten the job if I didn't network ahead of time. I didn't even have to barely interview for the position. I talked to a guy and he said, talk to this person. I said, can I use your name? He said, sure. And I said, I talked to this person. He said to come over here and talk to you. He said that you need teachers. Within a week, I think they called me back and said, yeah, come by and teach. And it was one of the top in schools at that time, private schools teach, that were looking for teachers. So they paid the best. They immediately gave me, benefits. And so I was able to, pay for living. But did I know I was going to teach English down there? No. I just researched how to be a teacher in an international country. And I took there's the TEFL, which is, teaching English as a foreign language certification program. I jumped in there. I think I paid like a little over $300 for the program. Studied like heck how to do lesson plans, how to properly do conduct a classroom, and I just studied. And I got the job, and within, I think, a month I became, or a month or two, I became TEFL certified. but I didn't know I didn't know I was going to do that.
It's interesting because it's saying, listen, we tell you this all the time, and you'll hear this multiple times when you hear someone that has made it to a certain level of success, that guess what? You have to make the investment. You're going to have, sometimes you're going to have to use, and they said it in the comments, sometimes you're going to have to use some blind faith. Sometimes you're just going to have to jump and take that leap and, cannonball into the water, but also you're going to have to make an investment. And, you could have said, oh, I'll just figure it out. I'll find something when I get over there, and not been prepared to make whatever investment was necessary. And that opportunity would have just went right on by.
Well, not only that is what I thought I would be doing over there didn't happen. Right. So sometimes what you think you're going to be doing, or sometimes you like the why kind of ends up involving it and opening up. Right. And the what is the same thing. Right. Some people know exactly their why and their what, and they get it done and it happens. Right. They execute very well and it happens. But, I didn't know, I didn't know necessarily what, right. Or my why at that time. And now, I figured out the online world, and I was able to travel back and forth to the US and South America and live in Panama, and because I figured the online aspect of it, I was doing, accounting and tax work for people and helping them out, consulting with them on their marketing stuff, because I understood the whole gamut. But that took time. That didn't just like all of a sudden just like, oh, I'm going to wait till something happens. Right. Or I'm going to wait till whatever happens in order for me to do X. Right. Sometimes, like my first business I started, it was just so funny, because my first business, even though my parents had a business, right, and they had all, the licenses and all this kind of stuff, like I didn't in the beginning, I was like, just barely driving, right, and I knew I wanted to start a business, and I just jumped in. And if I got an audit on me, by the city or something, I would have been fined, because like I didn't do everything perfect, and most people don't do perfect. They like, or like another problem that even I had, right? Like you have an idea and you do all the work to design the business cards and the logo and all that stuff, and you don't actually talk to people. You never talk to a single person about what your dream is and to get it done. You just design, because it feels like you're actually doing something for it. But with our phones now, you could jump on a social media platform or a YouTube video and say, hey guys, like, let me talk to you about this. This is what I'm doing. Right. And you don't have to get the business license or the LLC or corporation and make it all official and like wait till everything happens. Like if you have the money to do that, and you want to hire people to help you out with that while you're working on other things, but like focus on talking to people. Right. Anyways, keep going. Sorry, I'm just rambling on.
Oh no, you're fine, because you're saying some really great points that need to be reiterated. Is that, like I said, sometimes you got to take that leap. You're not going to know every bit of the process. You're not even going to know everything that's going to happen when you say yes to an opportunity. And I authors, you're still in strategy pieces that need to be in place as you're going along. But you just said it at the beginning. Guess what? Everybody's just trying to make it. Everybody's just trying to be successful. They're trying to get the first book published and the first book sold. They're trying to get their first speaking engagement. They're trying to get those things. And when you work so hard on the website and the book, having bookmarks and having business cards and having all of these pretty things and all these amazing looking things, But then for me, it was, I had all those things, and I'm an introvert. I don't talk to people on a regular basis. So that's why I was sitting here smiling when you said it, because I said, yeah, I didn't. I had all those things. I still have the website. Guess what? I don't even tell people what the website is. But it was like, okay, at some point, I'm going to restructure it and use it, but I don't need it in what I'm doing right now. I've been able to leave my job without using my website. I've been able to get speaking engagements and paid speaking engagements. I've been able to go and connect with people without using a business card, simply because we have access to a global network through social media.
Yeah. And you don't even have to, like, like an introvert, like, internally, I'm probably more of an introvert. I would rather just talk to a one-on-one person, or a person one-on-one. But fortunately enough, I grew up in a big family, and it kind of forced me to grow up in be in situations that forced me to not be as much of an introvert, right? But I learned early on that there was a CPA, right? That's a certified public accountant that I was driving near my office, and he had a Lamborghini, right? Or Ferrari, one of those nice cars, expensive cars. And he had his license plate, like the CPA or something like that. And I was like, okay, I know those things cost a lot, and I know CPAs that don't, like, what the heck is he doing? Is he just like showing it off as like to get promotion, or is this guy legit? Like, he actually owns that like car, and he's like a serious business person. I literally just picked up the phone and called his front desk, and I said, hey, I want to meet you, and I want to talk to you. And I was being authentic. I didn't pretend like I was some high and mighty person. I just said, hey, I want to talk to you. And we didn't talk about the Lamborghini, or I wanted to know what he was doing. Right. And he was willing to spend, a little bit of time. We sat down, pick up the phone and talk to somebody, or email somebody. It's like, and you don't know where your life is going to go after you pick up that phone or email that person. Now, my preferential is for people to talk to each other and over the phone or on a video chat, something, because there's a greater ability for you to make a greater connection, right? But you could email will just suffice to just talk to people, make connections with people. I made a connection with a guy, and I never end up using the source. I started doing kind of like a travel blog, right, about our experiences. And I interviewed a guy, and he connected me to one of the biggest international publishing houses, that did, some big magazines, right? Like for international, people, they call them expats, people that, live, go from their country and ended up getting residency in another country. And this publishing house was huge, but just sent an email, said, hey, I want to interview you, or I want to talk to you. We ended up building a relationship with each other, and he was there for whatever I needed in terms of success. Right. He just said, hey, like, I'll connect you with this person. I think you should write some articles. Right. And so you don't know where that one email or that one phone call is going to lead you. And if you have a dream or a business, and that's where you want to go, instead of doing that, design that logo, talk to somebody, right? Make that your first step. And yeah.
That was powerful, because that is it right there. I learned that lesson the hard way.
We all do.
I definitely learned that lesson the hard way, because I had to get way out of my own way out of my comfort zone in order to connect with people. But it's something that I instill in, especially in my clients, is I tell them, service first. If you go into it with a heart of service and with a mind of service, and that's what you want to do, then everything else falls into place. And so even with my tour, that's been a staple in my tour, is that before we leave, everyone goes around the room and asks somebody, instead of shoving business cards in people's face, ask them, how can I serve you? What can I do to serve you in your business? What can I do to help you move forward in what it is that you're trying to do? And in doing that, connections have been made. People have gotten speaking opportunities. And all types of things have been happening along this process, along this road. But it goes back to, just having those genuine conversations instead of worrying about having 1,000 business cards and handing out 500 of them at a networking event. Make the right connections with a few people. I tell people my side business, I don't market it at all. I don't market my side business at all. I literally do absolutely no marketing for it. It's all word of mouth. That speaks volumes.
Yep.
That's amazing, because people can literally go and one person can remember your name, and that's all you need. So I love that. I'm just like, I'm sitting over here like cheesing ear to ear, nodding my head. I want to yell and scream, but I don't want to.
You don't want the sound on your mic to go off the charts, right? To start crackling, right?
Thing over that, because so many people miss that part. They miss building community. They miss networking. They miss service. And so they come into it thinking, I have this amazing plan, I have this amazing strategy, and I want you to hear about it. And then I want you to buy my product. I want you to make me a millionaire. And you missed out on, when you build that, build the relationship. When you build that relationship, your name will be all over the world. There are people who are overseas. I literally just connected with a new client in Canada. There are people in the UK. There are people in Scotland that are talking about me and wanting me to come and those relationships. And so I definitely applaud you for doing that. And I appreciate you saying that, because it's needed, it's necessary. Now, I always ask everyone who comes on, what has been a blunder for you in this process? So in deciding that you were going to that could have been a blunder in itself, but in deciding you were going to sell everything and move to South America, what has been a blunder that you look back and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have did that particular?
So a blunder, I think, is I could have been a little bit more calm when the storm was happening, when storms were happening, right? So because things didn't all the time go right. You think like, okay, we moved there and all of a sudden everything was easy. No, we had to deal with immigration. I only knew some Spanish words. They spoke spoke a certain type of dialect. It was more of a, they call it like a Rio Platanese, I think is what they call it. So like we hear, pollo for like chicken, right? You hear that they say pollo, and they drag out their words a little bit more. It's more Italian type, a lot of acting, hand gestures. And so we had to figure out immigration, because at that time we weren't going to pay an expensive lawyer to help us. We were going to figure it out on our own. And, that's difficult to do. And so there was immigration, there was work, there was everything. You thinking like it's like going to be easy. And we have this society where if it's, as soon as it gets a little hard, we take off, we leave. And the good stuff only happens like right after you can't handle it. Just like you think you can't handle it anymore. Like, or like, it's at that tipping point that it happens. And that's how everything has been in our lives, or in my life, is like, it's that past that tipping point that happens, and that tipping point process is painful in your relationship, in your business, in everything. The good stuff happens right after that, and not throwing in that towel. And we didn't throw in the towel, but my character, it challenged my character traits, and I could have been a little bit better at communicating with my spouse, with communicating with other people. Like, it was when you get to that top right there, it's it's
It's
terrible.
those boiling points. You're
The
like,
boiling points.
oh, fun times. Yes. It's
Yep.
those fun times. I definitely of when you get gung ho, right? And you say, I'm going to do this. I'm excited about it. This is what I'm going to do. This is the plan. I'm going for it. And in 2015 was when I said, this is the plan. I'm going for it. And December 31st of 2015, I was evicted from my home. And, January 1st was the process of me, this whole thing of saying that I'm going, this is my business. March was when I published my book, and January was when I rebranded my business. And December 31st, I'm evicted from my home. So yeah, you definitely go through some things in the process, and you have some moments where you really have to go, okay, I may need to take a walk. For me, it was like, I need a brownie with ice cream and nuts immediately. Immediately. But you're right. It was after doing all of those things and coming through the storms and having those moments where I felt like everything was falling apart. At that next moment, that very next moment, it was like the heavens opened up and opportunities just started coming. And people were like, I need you to be a speaker. I need you to be an MC. I need you to do this. And you just kind of look around for a minute and go, okay, am I dreaming? Is this real? Or, what's really going on here? And I think that's something that can be a testament to anybody's journey, no matter what it is that you're trying to do. Literally, you just got to keep pushing. I know it gets hard. I know it gets difficult. You just got to push a little more. Just push a little bit more. A glimmer of light. You'll see. And so I know that for your wife, I know that had to be, a whole other thing, because you're dealing with being pregnant, and then you're traveling to a whole new country, and now you're dealing with all of these different, they said in the comments, culture shock. You're dealing with different things, compared to where you came from, and now you're dealing with something completely different. And so there's a lot that we have on our shoulders. We're not perfect. So It gets hard. We have some breakdown moments. We have some moments where we just need to go and eat a whole thing of ice cream or whatever, you need to do at that moment. So I can definitely relate to that.
So let me tell a little tipping point to your audience here, your people. So a tipping point that happened. There was several tipping points, right, that kept happening, but here's one that maybe people could connect with in understanding how committed you need to be. So about 2 years in that we're living, right, we're able to sell our stuff and get a little bit of money, but the plane getting the plane tickets to go there, went there with 10 suitcases, right? So, and having to rebuy stuff, get apartment, we got a small car, a used car. Money quickly ran out, right? And so we had credit card points, right? My wife our baby was maybe 9 months old, right? And we ran out of money. Basically, we only had so much money left in our account. Like, I think it was, not that much left. And I was doing odd jobs, and I was trying to make it happen because I was like committed to the staying there, the experience. And so we viewed it as also an experience, part of the process. But we got plane tickets. We went back to the US. We went up to some and I we ended up going for, I think, 2 months or something, 2 months back to the US. And I ended up working my tail. I took whatever jobs I could get, right? I had all this experience. I grew businesses, I did accounting, all that stuff. But, I didn't quite understand how to get clients over the internet, right? Like, who would trust me with their account information? Who would trust me with their, all that stuff that's like, that's sensitive, doing a tax return and stuff, who would trust me, who would do that? So I didn't understand the trust factor yet. And we went back to the US, and I built shelving for a company, right? Like, I put up shelving, like metal frames, like those ones that you need to be on a scissor lift. And like, I just did whatever jobs, and we just saved enough money. And then we had a countdown situation, right? Of like, okay, we have this much months left. Like, if we don't make it, like, we need enough money to get back to the US or someplace else, right? So there was always that, like, this like clock that would always happen. And we just trusted, like, okay, like, because you could live, like, our apartment, I think, was like $300, $350 a month, right? Like, yeah. So we didn't need that much to live in the initial place that we lived in, right? Because we moved again later. But the small place that we had, we didn't need that much. We didn't have car payments. We didn't have all that stuff that, like, you burden yourself, that you're like, okay, I got to make this happen. So we went back, and it was a situation where every month it was extending, and then finally more months started extending, more months and more months. And so by the time we got to the point where it was like, we could stay here indefinitely if we wanted to, because we're able to figure it out. But that process, those tipping points, like, sometimes, like, we went back to the US because we knew a lot more people here with businesses, and we could make more money. And we flew on airline points. So our tickets, I think, was like out the door was $70, right? Round trip, because we only had to pay for the taxes or whatever, or maybe it was a little bit more than that, but it was no $1,000 or $2,000, right? It was like, so we had to make certain decisions that were difficult, like tipping points for us. That was difficult. So somebody might like listen to, and like, it might not be a tipping point or issue for them, but each person has their top, that is just like that painful process. And then we got over that hump, and then we had some time of like, okay, we could do this. And then we had our next tipping point, and it was this constant tipping points in our lives.
Which is really amazing, because we think about it, and there's always something that's going to be happening in our lives. We have children. There's always going to be something. Listen, if for no other reason than the fact that we have children, there will always be something going on. But man, to think, that's dedication. To go and come all the way back to the US, work that time, build that income and have that money, and then go back to something once that really dedicated to this thing. And I think that dedication speaks volumes into what's about to happen, because I know that you're about to start speaking, and we have some things that are coming down the pipeline. So I definitely want you to share out with that's coming next. Volumes, because if you had not been dedicated in that way, you wouldn't be where you are right now. It was that dedication that opened up opportunities. It was that dedication that allowed you to see, you know what? I really can make this happen. I really can do this, because so many times those obstacles come in our way just to see if we're going to keep going, just to see if we're going to keep moving forward.
I got to say that the best tipping point was probably in the last year, the third year. So we had constantly the pain that just, you have in terms of, I would be home a lot. So me and my wife had to, a lot of times with your spouse, we each go to work, right? And you have that time apart, right? And if you have any type of issues, like you have an escape, right? Like, but when we moved, we're kind of like together, like really for the first time when we moved, we're like 24/7 we're together, right? Like, and so like even when you're dating, you don't even do that, right? You're not 24/7 with each other, right? And so like we learned things that were like this is what it's like when people get retired and all they're empty nesters, and then they have to deal with like, this is the stuff they have to deal with. Like, it was painful, like dealing with certain things, right? Certain character things, certain expectations, and all that stuff, right? That happened in our relationship. It happened in our work. It happened in all the aspects. And it was kind of like a crash course boot camp. And that would have never happened if we didn't move, right? So a lot of times, if you think you're going to solve, and if you have some major things to figure out, a lot of times you're not going to solve it in the environment that you're in. You can, but it's a lot difficult because you're not removing yourself from those habits and those routines and those things that are happening to you, or however you want to say it, to you, for you. You can't escape that a lot of times because like you're just in that environment that keeps happening over and over and over again. And people that do are a lot stronger, I think, that are able to do it. But this move was kind of a boot camp in a sense that it helped us, forced us to reconcile our lives and our relationship and at the end of the month, there's an accounting we do called reconciliation, right? You look at what you've spent and against what the bank shows, right? We do that with our, at a certain point, we need to do that with our lives. And we don't do that enough. We don't reconcile and say, like, does this match up? And
oh my goodness, that speaks volumes. And so you said you aren't all the environment you are. Whoo, that can. We could drop the mic several times. Just on that alone, we could just completely drop the mic several times, because not just about people in general or about situations, but about yourself.
Yeah.
About you, about who you are as a person. And so oh my goodness, that I was just sitting there, type that out, and because that was an amazing quote. Now, let everybody know in the audience, those listening to the replay, what you have coming down the pipeline, including coming.
So go to my website, petershinen.com, Peter, SHINEN.com, and just put your email address in the first page. And what that's going to do is that's going to put you on my list to get notified when my book's coming out. My podcast is launching in the next couple of days. So I'll notify you on, things are not perfect. And as you know, if you've listened to this whole podcast, I don't really wait till everything's perfect. So there's a lot of things happening. So just go on my website, put in your email address, just get on to be notified. And, I'm going to be giving tons of great information about my experiences, about business, just a wide variety of information. So if you want to be part of that, just go to my website and you could, I'd be happy to, if you have questions, just put your stuff on the email list, and I'll reach out to you.
That's great. And so, guys, it's all about, listen, are you ready to really go all in? Going all in for you may be selling everything and moving to South America. It may be just, deciding that you're no longer going to go to Starbucks. You're going to save that money and invest it in your business. It could be just publishing the book and doing it yourself because you really need to get this message out. Whatever going all in is for you, now is the opportunity to do it. The question is asked, when was the best time to plant a tree? And somebody will tell you 30, 40, 80 years ago. But guess what? The next best time is right now. It's today. It's plant the seeds that you need today, and it will bring forth a harvest in the future. This is the thing. A lot of us have not planted seeds, and we're looking for this amazing harvest to come about. We didn't plant seeds because we were too busy fear, water, rain, bird eats my seed. Listen, plant the seeds. It will be watered. It will be cared for. And in due season, it will bring forth a harvest. So understand that there are great things that are coming for you. And sometimes that seed may be going ahead and just selling it all. But whatever that seed is for you, whatever that thing is for you to jump and leap into your next level, now is the best opportunity. Out to Peter for more comments or in the details of this particular episode of Speakeasy Podcast. And those of you who are out there who are speakers or authors, listen, come join me. Come be a guest on the Speakeasy Podcast. If you go to the bit.ly/Speakeasy Podcast, all lowercase, you can be a guest here on the show. Listen, we have some great things coming. We have some great opportunities. But listen, it starts with you. The same way it started with Peter, the same way I'll say it started with Peter and his wife, is the same way that you can make some great things happen if you make the right decision today. So do you have a final word for everyone before we leave off for today?
Don't give up. Just do it, and don't give up. The tipping points, they are hard. Life is difficult. Life is like a fast moving train, and there's lots of things that happen. And if you're doing something right now that you just feel not happy inside, figure that out and figure out what that tipping point is and what the other side looks like. And sometimes, just go at it. I'll tell you, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it to go at in all aspects of your life, your relationship, your work, your faith, your family, it just everything, just like find out what that tipping point is, experience that tipping point as a journey, as a part of it. It'll make you stronger.
You heard it, guys. Listen, sometimes those things that rub us the wrong way, the opportunities that got missed, or the things that kind of went way south when we were expecting it to push us north, those are the things that really help us to grow and expand. Those are the things that really push us to our success. And guys, that's what the Speakeasy Podcast is all about. It's about you having this successful speaker and author career, and not just this being a side hustle, but this actually being something that you can do because you're passionate about the message that you have on the inside of you. So guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. You know that there would be no Speakeasy Podcast if there was no listeners like you. So until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.
Thank you so much for having me.